Yo guys, welcome to The Last Lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. We spoke about probably the best possible weekend for Red Bull. Probably up there with one of the worst possible weekends.
Well, it somehow managed
McLaren.
to go worse than last year, Bahrain.
Yeah. Just don't bother coming to Bahrain. Just for next season, just because it might be heartache. Just go again just start in Saudi Arabia. It's fine.
Well, both cars
Save the air.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Both cars had issues.
Yeah.
I guess that's the thing. It's like Piastri changed the wheel and it didn't fix whatever
Was
the
it a
problem
gearbox
was.
problem for him in the end?
I think he was complaining of gearbox,
steering wheel, and just,
and then Lando, was having to get topped up with air throughout the race, which we've seen that before, haven't we? I think with other teams, but that's definitely a thing.
I mean, that's a race. That's just a constant race killer. Just like, sorry, lad.
Especially as it happens so early. Because if it's happening that early on, then, if it happens 10 laps in, surely you're going to have to do it again in another 10 laps.
Yeah.
But we were talking
about 5 times.
Because like during the stream, we were saying that, this time last year, McLaren had a stinker at Bahrain.
Yeah.
But then like 4 races later at Imola, they got a podium.
Yeah.
So is it like, baby out of the bathwater? Is this a bit too much of an overreaction, or is it actually looking that bad for McLaren?
I mean, at least last year, when the car wasn't cooking its brakes or setting them on fire, at least it looked like it had pace. Whereas this time round, it doesn't even look like it has pace, and it's unreliable. So, you can make a unreliable fast car reliable.
Yeah.
But not necessarily a slow, unreliable one fast. And if anyone followed that and successfully managed to decode that, then congratulations, you're today's winner.
Because Lando put it P11 in qualifying, obviously, matched with Logan, so he was quite fortunate not to get knocked out in Q1, but he got through, and, I think when he put the mediums on, he was kind of following that Hamilton-Alonso battle. Hamilton-Sainz battle.
As well. I think it's like what Dan said. I've just been more concerned because of the lack of pace as well. At least if the car was unreliable or whatever. And I said actually earlier, I didn't know if this Bahrain was worse than last year, because even though they didn't finish last year, they were literally just last. Like, that was just a fact of the match. It didn't matter whether they were reliable or not. They were just last.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case this time. They definitely weren't the slowest car out there. Piastri was firmly in the midfield, but even still, Lando was dropping back a little bit in that first stint. He started 11th, got overtaken, I want to say a couple of times, and then
because Albon got past him. Sargent was just, I can't remember. I can't
remember who was in between Albon and Sargent, but whoever that was overtook him as well.
Some of that might have been down to his leaky air, though.
Yeah, true.
Because that will affect the engine performance.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
It's in a straight line.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it looks really bad. Is it really as bad as it looks? We don't know the answer.
The only other thing is, last year, the problem with Bahrain last year for McLaren was that they didn't really understand the car, and the brakes were like 17,000 degrees Celsius. So, whereas this time, it's actually we don't have new regulations this season.
It's not as much of an excuse.
It's not, you can't not understand you have to understand your car at least a little bit, because this is an evolution of last year's car. So that I don't think you will see that steep increase in performance necessarily like you did last year, just because of that. I don't know.
Have we not had Zach or Lando sort of come out and say, the car's wrong, we've gone down the wrong direction as well, which probably doesn't inspire much confidence.
That's the problem. It's like, you look at how Aston Martin turned it around from being right at the back of the pack last year, at the start of the year anyway, and now they're right at the top. Like you were saying this during the stream, Dan, it's like they're running out of excuses now, really. You look at 2020, they were quicker than Ferrari. They were up there with Ferrari at least. And now they're, I don't know, there's been a big stumble in the road. You look at, what Aston Martin are achieving. It's not looking good.
Yeah.
Not looking good, Brev.
You said it, Dan, where they need to be called out because... back in 2012, they were winning races and they were up at the front fighting for championships just a little bit before then, and they've just dropped off massively since then, never been able to return. And unlike a Williams, who were another team who were once back in the day fighting for championships, McLaren have a budget. McLaren have money. Like, they're not just some little farmer's team running around at the back. And facilities
They've
as well.
got Kindles on the side of the car with different sponsors. Like,
That's
they've got
what's
the money.
weighing them down.
That is,
upsetting the centre of gravity.
Starting to realise they should not have an Excel spreadsheet on the side of the car. That's the problem.
No, and that's the thing. Is all that
the
marketing's
sponsor
good.
stickers weighing it down.
If you're fighting at the front, then it's great. But unfortunately, it doesn't. Like, look, we've talked about this before with Lando. Where does he see his future? Blah blah blah. And the questions, I'm sure he's getting a bit sick of it. But it's like, well, it's valid because he's done what he can in that car. I don't feel like he can prove much more in that. And it's like, does he? He's 24 now, however old he is. F1's all about decision making the right moves at the right times. Certain drivers made moves at right times and, inherited cars that, could win them championships and others moved at the wrong time. Fernando's always cited as being one of these drivers who's moved arguably at the wrong time or made the wrong decisions. He's pulled a worldie at going to Aston Martin by the looks of it.
Anymore.
And exactly.
Finally.
I think there is pressure on Lando. I'm sure he feels it more than anyone, to like make the right call here. Does he stick it with McLaren or does he twist? Does he pick a different alley to go down, and does that deliver him a world championship car?
Yeah, I think the one thing he's maybe looking at is they are bringing a new wind tunnel and a little bit of upgrades to facilities, so potentially that could help them get a little bit further up. But yeah, where he's been, they kind of gone up a little bit, then back down and up and down. And for him, I think he could be looking at maybe that Red Bull seat. For me, that Red Bull seat could be opened up if there is a Constructors' Championship battle at the end of the season and Perez being, not quite there with Verstappen is the weak link and loses them a Constructors' Championship, that maybe Red Bull might look at it, or there's a fallout again in that relationship between Max and Perez where it is unworkable in that team. They could be looking around. And I said before that I think Ricciardo would go in there. That's why they put him in that third driver role, that reserve driver role, to maybe look, if we do need someone to step in, Ricciardo's a great choice for that. We know that him and Verstappen can get along well. They can work okay until they crash with each other, of course.
Yeah, just don't mention Baku.
Yeah, don't mention Baku.
Yeah. Or Hungary.
I've got my shirt at home that says I survived the Baku deep.
But I think now maybe that's looking at Lando Norris, because I thought that McLaren would be still up in that P5, P4 fight.
Yeah.
The fact that they're nowhere near it. And if that's happening every single season, how many times until you get tired of that?
No, that's what I was going to ask, really. Like, what if you're Lando? Like, what is workable with at McLaren? Like, what does McLaren have to achieve this season for you to go, I'm willing to stay here? And I think it's well above what it is right now. I know he's got a contract until 2058.
This upgrade they're talking about for Baku potentially, like this has to turn into
I feel like it's got to be, that's a bit of make or break.
Car, like,
it has to at least
up there with like where it looks like maybe Alpine are.
Yeah, at least has to propel them to best of the rest. Because if you're not best of the rest, then what's the point? You were best of the rest before.
Yeah.
And even that is a stepping stone to, okay, cool. Yes, now you should be fighting for wins regularly. If you can't even become best of the rest, if you can't even be best of the rest anymore, then...
And again, when the team in green's proven, it can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's just it's very easy to think, oh, Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, that's just the standard. That's always going to be the top three. But teams can break into it. Like, no one's infallible. Like, they're all, they're just teams of individual people making a car. And if you can assemble the right people, and that's where I do think, like, the Red Bull move for Lando, it's like, I don't know, part of it is, if Checo can carry on being as close as he was this weekend, then maybe not.
That door shuts.
But it's like, if they don't take Lando, then someone else maybe gets Lando. And then there's...
But where? I don't see any other places for next season. Ferrari's, whilst Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz might be getting frustrated there, Ferrari's one of those teams that there is potential for it to turn around like they have done in recent years. So you stay there. Mercedes, I don't see Lewis Hamilton leaving unless there is something like, for me, it's if Alonso does somehow retire in the next 2 years, then Hamilton might look at that as an option. But there's a seat not opening at Mercedes either.
Yeah, if you're Lando, like, realistically, you're just waiting on a retirement. I think whether it's Lewis or whether it's Fernando, a Mercedes seat is going to be available, in my eyes, in 2 years from now. There'll probably be a Mercedes seat open.
Yeah.
And
But there is a young driver coming up called Kimi Antonelli, who Mercedes are looking at very hotly.
He's very young though.
Well, he's
he's
Frecker, so F3 next year, F2, and then that's when Lewis Hamilton could move on from F2 into Mercedes if he is that hot shot that he's tipped to be.
I don't know. Mercedes don't like just thrusting people in at the deep end, though. So that would rely on him winning what he's in now, then winning F3 or being competitive, then winning F2 being competitive, and then boom, he's immediately in a Mercedes. And obviously with George, they just slapped him in a Williams for a couple of years and then let him prove himself.
Mercedes haven't got that dog in them.
Yeah, they don't.
No,
they don't.
Not like Helmut Marko.
They've
Get in the car.
They've got. I'm 12. Get in the fucking car. They've got that gerbil in them, Mercedes.
But you mentioned Williams. We know that Piastri's. He's the two paths. He could have stayed with Alpine, gone to Williams for maybe 1 year, maybe more. Depends on how long they would have kept Fernando, and then got in that way. And I mean, Williams. P10, P12, Sargent on debut as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like they certainly, this race, they were quicker than the McLarens.
Yeah, I think they look strong. I mean, for Piastri, that choice between Alpine or McLaren was just kind of like, which arm do you want chopped off, basically? So.
Yeah.